Well, what day is it? It's
Surprise! Surprise, everybody! It's a Sunday.
That's right. It's Sunday, and I did a little time traveling, so I'm over in Kona, different time zone. So I hope the ocean doesn't cut into the audio too much.
Yeah, I'm pretty. I got to be honest. There's John's view. I'm really quite jealous of.
That's right behind me. That's looking out the window. That's right over my shoulder. So.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah, so we can sit out on the patio and listen to the ocean for breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever. And yeah, Laura does a great job of finding these places. And yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
that's out that window right there. That's where.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
So, what's the weather been like?
You know what? It's been a little warm. We were out doing a little bit of running around, picking up some groceries today. It was 87. I didn't check the humidity, but it's just always going to be 80% humidity or higher. So hot and humid. So yeah, it's hopefully drop down a little bit by Thursday for Laura, but it's Kona.
It's Kona. Has it been raining at all?
Well, it rains every day, but not here. It's like like just up the hill always. There's always some clouds. You can't see in my video, but there's always some clouds right there, and that's where the coffee farms are. And it does do a light mist up there, which is probably only 5 miles away, but
Yep.
not necessarily down here. It won't rain. Although Laura said it did rain last night. I didn't hear it. You know, so I don't think we'll get any rain, but I also have not checked the weather forecast. Let me see if I can bring it up real quick.
I just know historically during the race, I mean, there has been times where it'll come in for like a half hour, 20 minutes and rain pretty decent.
Yes, that's true.
But I don't know if that's even a forecast thing or if it just kind of, because you're in the tropics, that just happens at this time of year.
I don't know. I mean, each time that we've been out here, it has not really rained down so much down here in Kona.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see. And I got to find the right place to put in here for our weather forecast. Yeah, it's going to be hot and humid. So there's not.
That's what it is. Hey, that's how it's going to be, right?
Yeah, and right now it is raining about 5 miles to the east of here, up in the higher areas. So, but we don't see it here. It's just sunny and hot at this point. So
Awesome.
yeah, super interesting. But it's nice. And for people who don't know, I am here as support crew. I am Sherping. I don't know what it is.
Yep.
Yeah, so I am support crew, and Laura is doing the race on Thursday, and this is the first time that the Kona race has been split in 2 days. So all the women are going Thursday, and then some of the men's age groups, which is really sort of awkward. And then all the rest of the remaining age groups and pro men will be on Saturday.
Strange. It's strange how they're splitting the men. Has there been much talk about elite men, especially age groupers, and the overall and what time they're going to take?
Yeah, this is the challenge. For the women pro being on one day and the men pro being on another day, I think that's really good. I think that's really going to give a spotlight on the women. I do hope at some point that they'll flip days too, that the women will be highlighted on Saturday and the men will go on Thursday. But this way, the women are able to, women pros especially, are able to do the pro race without interference of age group men. Because one of the problems have been in the past that the age group men can catch some of the age group women and interfere with the race. Not intentionally, but just by being there and being, in the moment, that the women aren't just racing the women at that point. So I think this is going to be really great for them. For the age group men, it's really a little bit unfortunate that one of the age groups that has one of the athletes that could be the overall age group winner, who's local Justin Reale, he goes Thursday.
Yep.
And all the other guys are going in the other age group, he's 25, 29, are going on Saturday. And so what a tough spot to be in, because you know, the weather can change. It can be an entirely different race, favor either Thursday or favor Saturday. But the other thing is he races on Thursday, everyone can see what he did. And then, you know, at least they have that information to work with on Saturday. So
Well, I think
it's
that's
real.
one thing. But I think you are like the time is the time. It's the wind.
Yeah, yeah, right,
Because
right.
we've known this many times in Kona that like on a Friday it could be
Yeah,
calm and then Saturday it could be windy or the opposite, right? And
mhm,
I think that that's the unfair part for him because like you can only go as fast as you can go, and just because you know
mhm,
somebody went 9:01 doesn't mean
mhm.
you can go 9:01.
Right,
Kona
but
is notorious for that.
no, you're spot on, and I agree with that. But at the same time, when you go Saturday and you're also competing for the top spot, now you know
Yeah,
what the other top guy did or
it's
top
true.
guys, because there's a few guys in that 25, 29 age group that that 25, 29 age group could actually dominate the podium regardless of which day it was held on. I mean, there's some really top level age groupers in that
Yeah.
age group, 25, 29. So
I just think
yeah,
it just adds a piece of it's kind of, I don't know, maybe makes me I don't know, not a little sour on the whole thing
yeah,
because to me I think that's a cool thing that we have, right? The top
yeah,
10
yeah.
overall age group. Um and it just, yeah, it seems weird, like
I
because
think that
honestly I think the weather really could make the biggest difference.
that's right. And then all of a sudden you're always going to just be wondering, well, what if
Yeah,
everyone raced on the same day? So I think they will fix that the next time around, because I think they'll be able to manage the entries and the qualifying spots a little better, because I do see that they're going to continue this 2-day format
yeah,
for the full. You know, they've done the 2-day format now for several years with the 70.3, and that's worked really well.
yeah,
But it's a 70.3. It's a little easier to manage a 70.3 because you're done by noon, and then you can clear out group one on one day, and then have another day that the next, or another race the next day. But with an Ironman, you have to have a day in between, just because you got the midnight finishers and you can't clear out the transition area.
yeah, yeah. No, and actually 70.3 coming up in St. George is split days. It's a
Yeah,
Friday,
yeah,
it's a Friday,
yeah,
Saturday. And I've raced those before when they're Friday, Saturdays, and they're great.
yeah,
Especially, well, I don't know about for a woman, but for a man, it's great. I can watch the race the day before.
yeah, yeah.
And I can remember sitting in Chattanooga in the hotel room and watching the women's race. I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah,
how are they approaching this hill on the bike? How are they
that's
doing
right.
this?
That's right.
And
Mhm.
it was really, it was good, especially in a course you don't really know,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
to watch that the day before. But it's interesting. They've never flip-flopped the days.
Interesting. That's right. You know, I was just trying to think if they have, and they haven't, have
Because
they?
in Nice they didn't, right?
Huh.
You women did Friday, men did Saturday, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, hopefully they will, because I think that's good to, have men go, the first day and the women go the second day at times, and vice versa. So,
yeah, yeah, I
but we're
agree.
enjoying Kona. We got here Friday and her race is Thursday. And if I was racing, I would be glad to be here a week before, just to get used to the elements, get used to, all the, you know, stuff that happens around Kona, because Kona is a very small area on the island. And, just the logistics of getting down into the heart of Kona can be a little bit challenging. We're close enough that we'll walk down, but it's a mile walk.
Yep.
So we've timed it, and it's 15, 20 minutes each time walking. And so that's just something you have to build in. But it's not unlike some races. I think of Louisville, and I think you had Oregon, which was a long walk to the swim start.
Yep.
But those are logistics that you got to figure out ahead of time.
And you got to realize it's so funny. Even at our local race yesterday, it was a mile from the transition to the swim start.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And you forget that how long it takes to walk a mile,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
Like,
That's right.
it's an 18-minute walk.
Yeah. Right.
And you don't think that you're transition like, oh, I got lots of time. I get time to even do a swim warm up.
Yeah.
And next
Yeah.
thing I know, we're walking down, like, oh my gosh, like we're getting close. Like
Yeah.
this is because I don't know, like when you're a runner, you always think, oh yeah, I run 8-minute miles, I run 9-minute miles, 10
Mhm.
miles, nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you're walking, like you're doing back and forth and you're 15, 20 minutes this way, 15, 20 minutes this way, and you do it a couple times a day.
Yeah.
you're on your feet an awful lot.
That's right. That's right. And if you, I know, you didn't have what's illegal temps, but it sounds like some people still wore wetsuits, but
Yeah.
then you got to account for that time to put your wetsuit on. And do you put your wetsuit on up at the top of the transition, or do you put it down as you get down towards the water? Those are again logistic decisions you got to make.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you both do the swim this morning?
We did. Yeah, that
Let's
was
talk
fun.
about that swim, because I think that's a pretty cool thing, and I don't know how many people know about it. So why don't you tell us about the swim?
So the week before the men's race, the Saturday, they do what they call the practice swim. And
Oh,
the
was it
practice swim,
yesterday?
oh, sorry, no, it's
Okay,
today. See, I'm
it was
still
today. Okay.
confused. Yeah, it was today. Yeah, it was Sunday. And I was so confused, I didn't register. I thought I registered, but I didn't.
Oh,
But
no.
I was able to get in. So I was able to register. And I told the person who was there, I said, look, if I just need to go swimming, I'll swim, and I'll go start now, or I'll wait until everyone goes and then I'll do it. I don't want to abandon it, but she said, no, we'll get you in. So fortunately, they were great. They got me in, and I got a cap and a chip, and so that was good. And so they
I'm
do
gonna jump in. I bet you're not the only one, Kona week, that has a little mind mistakes. They're probably ready. They're probably like, okay, there's gonna be 30 people that come here this morning that think they registered that didn't. So you don't even have an excuse. You're just a Sherpa.
I don't have any excuse. I don't have race anxiety. I don't have, none. I have no excuse. So it's just me. So the practice one
Is it
is
the course?
Yep, it's the course.
So it's the actual, see that I didn't know that. I thought maybe it was a point to point or something. So it's the actual course.
Yep, but they don't have all the buoys in.
Okay.
So they have the main buoys that mark certain points of the course, and the finish is different than your finish on race day. So the finish is there's a little cove you have to go into, and then they have you come out there. Whereas on race day, you finish at the same place that you entered the water. So there is a little bit difference at the end, but not that big of a deal. The rest of the swim is all the same. So it's really straight line out 1.2-ish miles and back 1.2 miles. And yeah, I haven't been swimming that long at all. I've only been swimming 1,500 yards meters a day. And so I'm going along and I'm like, hey, maybe this is a point-to-point race. I'd forgotten how
Maybe I'm
long.
just gonna keep going and just do the
That's right. It took a while to get out. And, it is amazing swimming in the ocean. It's just different because you do have ebbs and flow of the water. And there'll be times where, I'll be separated by someone, just by inches. And then all of a sudden a wave comes along and all of a sudden we're separated by 10 feet. And so there's a lot of ebb and flow, side to side movement that you end up having in here in Kona. And the trick is also to figure out what to sight. Because the way the course is laid out, there are not, it's not easy geographical features to pick out as you're swimming. So it's really good for people to do this practice swim and really get a sense of how to swim as straight as possible, because we know one of the best ways to swim faster is to swim straight in open water. So,
but it's super tough when there's those ebbs and flows, right? Like
it is.
You're swimming straight, and once again, a wave can take you and also turn you diagonally.
Yeah.
And you don't, and in a lake, it's you don't really see that, and obviously in pools you don't see that, but in the ocean you'll get these swells. I know for me, even like, I think I'm swimming straight, and then all of a sudden my body's turned.
Yeah.
I know it was just a little swell that took me. So you have to sight more often. Yeah. And if you don't have these good geographical features, I mean, that's a really good thing to practice.
Yeah, it is. And you do have to sort of see where everyone is around you, which, this practice swim was a mass start. I didn't make it to the start line in time, but I started behind the actual start group. But when you do a mass start like that, it does give you a chance to sort of swim with people of your same ability, because you're all sort of swimming the same pace. And so that, that does give you an opportunity to try to use other swimmers as your guide too. I don't rely on them, but it is nice to know if the majority of people are to your right, you can guess that you're headed in the right direction as long as they're there. But if they're not there, then you have to really sight and say, where is everybody? And you should not be alone in something like this.
So I do that often, especially when we're doing a course and you make a turn. And if
Yeah,
I don't see the buoy right away,
yeah,
I'll do 4 or 5 strokes. Like I'll look at the people, how everyone's
yep,
going that way.
yeah,
I'm pretty confident I'm going the right way. And then
right,
the next time I see, oh, I still can't see it, but everyone's going that way. And then the next, oh, there it is. Yes,
yeah,
I am.
yeah,
Rather than sitting up and like
yep,
breaststroking a little bit and looking and really breaking my rhythm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I do. I don't know. Do you do that as well?
I do, and worst case though, like especially if I make a turn, I really want to know where I'm going next.
Yeah.
And so I'll do like you talk about, see where everyone's going, but I will sight almost every stroke
Till
until
you,
I say, oh, that's the buoy I'm headed for. Now let me pick out what I'm going to sight off of that, and then work towards it. On race day, they will have some boats out, and so at the corners, and that will help with the sighting. And so we didn't have the boats out today, so it was just a little awkward trying to find it. But yeah, if you're unsure about the direction you're headed in, and you can't even get a bead on other people, it's best to just stop,
stop.
look,
Yeah.
do some breaststroke, figure out the lay of the land or lay of the course, and then get back on track. But the other thing I think about, especially in swimming in Kona here and the ebbs and flow of the currents and the waves, is I think micro adjustments. I don't think big adjustments in direction, because you can chase, the wrong direction, or you can make a big adjustment and then all of a sudden you get pushed back on course, and that was all wasted energy to begin with. So I really think micro adjustments as I'm going along, and a stroke here, a stroke there, a little bit here, a little bit there. Okay, now I'm where I need to be, as opposed to trying to make big changes in direction.
Well, I think especially in a course where it's set up like a rectangle like this, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And you really only have 2 turn buoys, correct?
that's right. That's one, two, and then in. So that last
Well,
one would
in
be
3.
the third one. Yeah, but really, I would say 2 turn buoys, and then the guide into the finish exit.
So what I've seen in looking at people's tracks and talking to people is, they get on that one side of the buoy line and they want to stay there.
Yeah,
And so they get that little flow going, going across it, and then they're gonna, like you were saying, they're making a hard adjustment to get to the one side
yeah.
of the buoy. And if it's
Mhm.
not a turn buoy, they shouldn't do that. They should
No,
just be
that's right.
slowly edge your way back.
Mhm. Mhm.
In running, it's called running the tangents. In swimming, it's probably some similar term, but you got to be really cognizant of the fact that you don't need to make that hard. Oh, I'm off course. Like I got to get on that side of that buoy.
Right. Because you just chase it, and all of a sudden you get pushed in different directions. And then the other thing I think, when you swim with a big group and you bump into people, you've got to realize that sometimes they're swimming in the wrong direction, and sometimes it's you that's swimming in the wrong direction. and
It's
and it's
true.
not always easy to know. And so when you do run into someone, it's usually that it's not on purpose. But you gotta correct and say, okay, wait a second, let's just make sure I'm on the right path as well. Because I have done, a stroke, one too many, without sighting, and all of a sudden I'm running into someone.
Yeah.
But it is, it is expected, and I think as you get more experience in the open water as an athlete does, you get used to that, and it is what it is.
So during your swim today, any marine life sightings?
Yes, lots of fish. I did see a critter that I don't want to let anyone else know I saw.
We'll just keep it just between the two of us.
Yes, yeah. If anyone's watching, don't post it, but I did see a little shark. It was about this long. Or what I thought was a shark. It was swimming like this.
It was
And
probably a fish. And
yeah, it was, I don't
that's
know
what we'll
what
tell
it was.
everybody. It was just a fish with these razor sharp teeth.
I'm not telling any of our athletes about it. But
I
it was
actually
like
think
40
that,
feet down on the bottom, just swimming
yeah,
around. He didn't
I
care.
think that's super cool, to be honest with you. Like,
Yeah, it is neat.
and the fact that you could see 40 feet down is amazing.
Oh, it's beautiful. And I do love looking at the marine life as I'm swimming in here. It's just one of those things. You just take it in, and you just remind yourself, you're in Kona, you're swimming in the ocean, and it's beautiful. The water temperature is super. It's just spot on, really comfortable. I don't know what it is, but it's probably right around 80 degrees actually.
Perfect.
So it's super easy to get into. You get out, tread water, for race day, they'll still do an in-water start, but they're gonna do it by waves. And so you start, you swim out through the start line, the tread water, and you won't get cold. It's not like some of our races up in Sand Hollow or even down at Lake Mead.
Awesome. So what does the rest of the week look like until the race?
For Laura, she should really be off her feet. We're gonna go down and get checked in today. So we'll walk down again and get her all set. And then just really, taking easy. I don't know what her coach has her doing training wise, but
Very little, very little.
Yeah, the whole this race is really about just having confidence and being really positive about the day, because it's going to be a hard day because of the heat and the humidity. The course is no harder than what we deal with in Las Vegas. And you and I always say, if you can train in Vegas, you can race anywhere, and that's so true. Except here it's humid, and you do need to plan on that. But the problem, one of the challenges is there's so much mystique about this race that you can over plan, and really it's just a matter of trust your fitness and trust all the work that you put in, and have a great day and just enjoy the moment.
Yeah, Kona's kind of notorious too for, at least what I've heard, is the panic training. The last 2 weeks train, go to Kona early, train in Kona.
Yeah.
You hear the stories of people out on the highway on Wednesday and Thursday crushing it.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? There's nothing to be gained. Right? There really isn't. And if you look at like the top marathoners, they don't train hard. They don't even it's easy jogging the week of a race with a few openers, like just a few little like neurologic things, right? Triathletes are crazy. They're absolutely crazy in that they just got to get that one more session in, and you're so much better to freshen up and be 2% under than 1% over.
Right.
And it's such a hard thing to do. Like I can remember the first world championship I ever went to. It was in Mont Tremblant, and we were driving the course, and there's so many people out riding hard. And this was like 2 days before. It wasn't like it was 2 days before. And I'm like, the only thing in my mind, like, oh, they must be support crew. Like they must be training for something else.
Yeah.
But they had stickers on their bikes, right? So I'm like, and I don't get it. Like I don't know. I've overtrained into a race, and I know you have too. And it's a brutal day when you've done too much race week. Or even you guys, like, you're smart, you're traveling early, right? You're traveling 2 days before an Ironman. It's tough. I mean, I know sometimes we have to do it.
It's I look at it as it's managing the anxiety. And this is why it's actually nice coming here and just being support crew, because I can still get that anxiety, that anxious feeling of wanting to race, because you're around all these people and you're seeing all these fit people and this is what they're doing. And you're like, oh, I got to get out and do it. But really, it is a matter of trust the process. You got to have a plan, race week. And but it is a matter of managing that anxiety. And when you are sitting around and you're used to training 10, 15, maybe 20 hours a week, and all of a sudden those hours are back on your schedule because you're not putting that time in, you've got to have something to fill that time. So something is,
but fortunately you're right there.
I know, that's right. So that's why it's nice to have that view and just be able to sit, watch the waves, and try to take it in, as opposed to just a room of four walls. And it's hard. But I think this is a problem with triathletes in general, is there is such a strong tendency to overtrain, because we're training 3 sports, and it is time consuming, and you want to do just a little bit more.
It's so hard, right? Because like it's the trust in the process.
Right?
And the trust that you've trained for years. Like people that are at Kona, this is not their first rodeo, right?
Yeah,
Like
right,
they've
right.
trained for years to get to
Mhm.
that.
Yeah,
And the cumulative effect of years of training is amazing,
yeah.
right? And it doesn't just go away.
Mm-mm,
You know,
mm-mm.
it doesn't. And you know, even 6 weeks off, it doesn't go. Like, yes, you'll
Right.
lose some, but it doesn't just go away. Like that history is there. We know that, you know, this is evidence stuff that research points to. You know, to fully develop your aerobic system takes 10 years
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, yeah,
to get to full development. It's not going to go away in a week. Like
no.
10
Well,
years.
when we talked with Mark Allen,
Yep.
that was a great message that he had, is that it is, you got to be in it for the long haul,
Yep.
and, you know, make it a lifestyle, because it does take time to prepare for, you know, these long distance events. And then once you have that fitness, the event is all about problem solving, and really, you know, having that experience of how to solve the problem that you're in that moment, which is not always easy to do.
Yeah. But and then we've talked about this a lot too, is you could be undertrained, right?
Mm-hmm,
Than just under race.
mm-hmm,
And that's okay, right? Like you have to, we've talked about this before, know where you're at.
yeah,
If your fitness is today, it's a reasonable thing to do a 10-hour Ironman, then that's what you should do. If your
mm-hmm,
fitness is that it's reasonable to do a 14-hour, then that's
mm-hmm,
what you do. You don't go out in your mind thinking, well, I'm going to do a 12-hour when you're a
right,
14-hour, you know, that's how much you've trained for. And
mm-hmm,
I think that that's a big part of maturity in triathlon. Even in like a local sprint race, I did the local sprint race yesterday. I knew where my fitness was, and it's not where I would like it to be. We've
mm-hmm,
talked about the struggles of the year for both of us, and I did what I could do, and at the end I was happy, um, because I could do it. You know, did what I could
yeah,
do,
yeah.
and and I think that that's a sign of maturity in endurance athletes and in triathletes in particular.
No, I love that perspective on that, because it's maturation. It's being mature, and it's being able to race your race.
Yep.
Yes, when someone's right next to you, you want to have that competitive feel or what have you. But at the same time, at the end of the day, when you cross that finish line, you're going to know how you did, and that expectation is really the most important.
And did what you did match up to your training? Like that's what I always say, right? Like did the metrics that you were producing in training equal out in the race?
Yeah.
Because if they did, that was a successful day, and
Mm-hmm.
you did problem solve well,
Right. Right.
right? If not, then it's like, okay, well, what went wrong? You know,
Mm-hmm.
did I train too much going in? Like, did I try to get that extra 2 sessions in? And then that's the reflection that happens. And I've done it, like where I've got onto the bike and I'm like, oh my gosh, my legs are horrible today.
Yeah.
Why are my legs so bad? And you go back like, oh yeah, you know what? Last
Mm-hmm.
weekend I went a little bit too hard. I thought
Yeah.
I thought I would be able to recover, and I didn't. And
Mm-hmm.
so now it's like, okay, well, I've learned that lesson that, okay, a week before is not a time to go hard. It's a time to actually go easier to recover more. And sometimes it's worked and sometimes it hasn't,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes I've trained hard the week before and not had that issue, but now I'm like, well, there's no real benefit from training hard the week before. There's
Mm-hmm.
only, in my opinion, there's only negative.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, at least to your A race. And that's the difference, right? Like
Yeah, that's true.
if you have a training race, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter. Like this race I did yesterday, it was a training race. I took a day and a half off,
Yeah. Right. Right.
right? Because it didn't matter. Like I'm training for the 70.3 in 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. And we talked a little bit about consistency and with Mark Allen. And one of the things he said is you train so you can train tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when there was a downhill finish in the race yesterday, could I have went faster? Absolutely. The last kilometer, I easily could have went faster.
Do some
But
good damage.
but I'm thinking I want to ride my bike tomorrow.
Yeah. Right.
Right. And I did. I went out for 3 hours today, easy, which was on the plan. But I
Mm-hmm.
could have ruined that plan in
Mm-hmm.
a local training race.
Yeah. Right.
And once again, like it's it's hard. Like, I don't know if I've ever told you the story that about me being a racehorse. This is my wife's contention, is that especially early in my endurance career,
Yeah.
if it was a race, it was all in. And
Hmm.
put a number on me, she would say,
Yeah.
put a number on you, slap your ass, and you go, just like
Yeah.
a racehorse.
Right,
There's
right.
no A race, B race, C race.
Yeah.
It was just every race was an A race.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And with maturity, I've kind of gotten away from that mentality
Hmm.
and trying to be smarter about it. And I
Yeah.
think that athletes can gain a lot from that maturity.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's great because you're right. It's easy to think every race should be an A race, but there are races that have a little bit more meaning than others.
Yep.
And that's okay. That's okay. And it doesn't mean that you make an excuse that, well, this isn't my A race, that's why I didn't try so hard or what have you.
Yep.
No, it just means that your plan going into that race is going to be different than your key race. It may be that you don't taper, but you're still on race day, you can still give what you're going to give and be in that moment.
Yep.
But I also don't use that as an excuse either. On
No,
that
no, it's
day,
not an
that's what I did.
excuse.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not an excuse. It's just to be mature and to be smart.
Right,
Like,
right.
because on the uphill sections, I run as hard as I possibly could.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like, I really like,
yeah,
because I'm like, I'm doing no damage on the uphill. I'm doing damage
yeah.
to myself mentally, like, because
Hmm.
but on the especially on the steep downhill, I'm like, no, because that's where the damage happens, right?
Yeah,
And and once again, trying to be smart, but no, there's no excuses. Like,
no, right, right.
it is what it is. And I did the plan that I needed to do so I could train today, and I could train
Hmm.
tomorrow,
Yeah,
and I could train the next day.
yeah. And I think when you can put these different races in different compartments, you can cross the finish line and enjoy that moment for that day
Yeah.
and every time. And you never get to a point where you cross the finish line and you're not happy. You got to say, this is what you were doing for this, for this particular race and enjoy that.
Well,
Far
I
too
think
many
the only
people
time
don't celebrate that.
I think that for me, like, now, to be not happy, it would be more like if a problem came up and I didn't solve it.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
right,
And I
right.
didn't, like, I let my emotions, I solved it maybe, but I let my emotions get in the way of solving it rather than my brain.
Hmm.
I think that would be more of the disappointment for me
Yeah,
at this
yeah,
point, rather than
yeah.
the actual, like, the physical part, because
Hmm.
I know where I am.
Yeah,
I always know where my fitness is now. Like, when I was a younger athlete, or a
yeah.
less mature athlete, I didn't always know, but now I know.
Hmm.
And I'm realistic with, and I don't get upset with myself that I can't run the fastest I want to run, or do
Hmm.
whatever I want to do. I know where I am.
Right.
But yeah, but like, if a problem was to occur and I couldn't solve it with my mind,
Yeah.
I think that would bother me.
Well, I think this is, we may want to talk on an episode entirely about DNFs
Yeah.
and that did not finish a race because they are a real risk, especially when you start doing the longer races, 70.3s, full Ironmans. There's a risk of not finishing a race. And it can be devastating to people. And that's what you end up doing. I have 3 DNFs for my iron distance, career. And, I can tell a story about each one of them, and you do doubt whether or not you should have stopped. And it can be challenging to overcome that. But everyone who races iron, well, not everyone, but even the top athletes have DNFs. Mark Allen even talked about
All the
his
time.
DNFs, and
Yeah.
Meredith Kessler, a great athlete. I remember she gave her speech before Ironman New Zealand, and I don't remember how many DNFs she had, but she mentioned that, and it wasn't a criticism of herself. It was a growth, and she was able to say, okay, these DNFs, this is what's happened, and this is how I use that to improve. And that's what Mark Allen talked about too when he had that race that he talked about where it really sort of fell apart. But you use that as a way to try to get better. And that's sort of the challenge of these events is, you told the start line. I mean, you don't know if it could be a mechanical, you don't know if it could be something mental, you don't know if it's going to be something physiological or whatever it is, or an injury. There's a lot of things that can happen in the course of a day of exercise. So.
Well, and we're human, right? Like this has happened to you where
Yeah.
you got a viral infection the week
Mhm.
of, right? That was
Yeah.
I think it was Oceanside for you, like
Oh,
3 or
yeah.
4 years ago. I mean, a week before you're ready to go,
Yeah.
right? And then
Mhm.
all of a sudden midweek, you're not
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. That was
And
I think that one was did not start.
yeah, but still,
Yeah.
but that could
Yeah.
have happened that morning,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
You could
Yeah.
have got on the bike, or you could have
Mhm.
swam and got on the bike and like, oh man, I feel
Yeah.
horrible. I can't
Mhm.
breathe. I'm coughing. The right thing to do would have been to not finish. Just
Right.
as the right
Right.
thing to do was not start, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think that it's, we kind of get painted into this and trapped into it a little bit with the way especially when we travel to races, the cost
Yeah. That's
associated
right.
with it, right? So
Mhm.
you got a hotel room, you got a flight, you've got a non-refundable race that cost you $800 for the
Mhm.
entry fee.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I have to
Right.
race. Like because I'm $3,000 into this thing.
Mhm.
And like, well, I'm not gonna go travel to Hawaii and not race.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. Right.
so I'm gonna start. And then this is a real thing, and I know it happens at Kona, right?
Mhm.
Is where you actually start and you know that something miraculous is gonna have to happen for you to finish.
Yeah. And I've known athletes that have come to Kona and they had to pull out and not start. And that was a big decision. And it was a hard decision, but it was the right decision. And
Yeah.
there are times that you do have to take a step back from even getting to the start line.
Yeah.
But
No,
that's
I
not
agreed.
but that is, it's all part of what you're talking about in terms of maturity of being an endurance athlete is you need to look beyond that moment and say this is a long-term project that you're doing in terms of being in endurance sports.
No,
But
it's
hey,
it's
I,
totally true.
I want to switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
You get that contraption behind you.
It's finally
It's
built.
it's done, and you raced on it.
I raced on it. Now, see, now the smart person would not have raced on it yesterday
Why is that?
because I literally had 5 minutes on it of like where I thought it was ready to go. I
Yeah.
did ride it on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I rode it into work,
Okay.
and I didn't ride it home. I drove home, and there was rattling, and it wasn't shifting properly, and
Right.
all
Right.
sorts of little things. I'm like, oh
Oh,
gosh, the
yeah.
fit
Right.
was the fit was all off, and I'm like, I thought I
Yeah.
measured right for my old bike.
Oh
And
man.
I got home on Tuesday and I'm like, oh no, like, so,
Yeah.
I don't even know, like maybe 4 or 5 more hours of work.
Yeah.
And so then um, Friday morning I got up and I'm okay, I think I know I got the last few things to do.
Hmm.
Like I did a few things, but then I had to work. I had a bunch of stuff going on at work. And then I had to get ready for the race too. Like, I didn't, there's things you got to do. And it's been a long time. I haven't raced a sprint race in forever.
Yeah.
Actually, I
Right.
can't even remember. It's been pre-COVID since I raced a sprint race. So I'm like looking for all of my stuff and whatever. And I'm like, I better just take this out. So
Right.
I literally just around my neighborhood, just shifted the gears and everything. I'm like, I think it's good. I think I had a little checklist of all the things I needed to do. And then so I wrote it and it was perfect.
Yeah.
There was nothing. The fit was just maybe like the saddle was just a little bit too much tilted. That was the only thing. And I corrected that and I wrote today. And there was no noise, nothing. It was just like, it was so solid. And
Oh, that's great.
the funny thing is like we've talked about, it's pretty much the same bike I had before. It's just a little different carbon layup.
Yeah.
Um, but I really believe that my bike it was 6 years old,
Mm-hmm.
has gotten softer.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
just over time, I don't know, like the carbon fatigues
Yeah.
or whatever, because
Right.
this bike just feels tight. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And I'm like, it could be I guess it could be the layup of the carbon, but I do think that there is, over time, your bike does break down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, it was super fun to ride. And it's just, you've done this before too. There's a sense of pride of like starting with a frame set and nothing
Yeah.
else,
Yeah.
and parting, getting all the parts. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm really proud of this machine
That's awesome. Yeah.
that I got together. So it weighed in at 17.2 pounds,
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
which is really
Yeah.
light. Now that's
Yeah.
without cages,
Okay.
without bottle cages.
Mm-hmm.
So and that little doodad on the back, it didn't have that
Mm-hmm.
on.
Yeah, so
But
that's still great for climbing. I mean, it
yeah,
is interesting. A lot of tri bikes are heavier
yeah.
than a lot of people think they are. So, I mean, they can be over 20 pounds. So,
Well, and mine's an extra small, so
yeah, yeah.
that helps.
Hmm.
And I was conscious of like when like I honestly I kind of embarrassed because I spared nothing. Like I was like
Yeah,
this is my 50th birthday bike, and
yeah,
I'm gonna like if I look at the last bike
yeah,
I had for 6 years, this will be
yeah,
probably 5 or 6 years.
yeah, yeah.
And so I'm going to source the parts to make it the best possible bike that I can make. So
That's great. Oh, that's
that makes it
great.
light.
Hey, this is what you enjoy doing. And
Yeah.
so no, that's fun. That's great.
It's so funny because I know there's we're preaching to the converted about like spending a lot of money on bikes, but like I'd much rather buy a new bike than a car
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Right.
I hate driving.
Yeah. Right.
Like, I don't enjoy driving at all. Like a lot of times
Yeah.
when we go places, Marie drives because I don't. There's nothing about it. I've owned
Yeah.
a sports car
Right.
before. That made me feel a little bit good sometimes, but I still didn't like
Yeah.
it. Like I love riding my bike.
Well, if you had a car that towed a trailer, then that would be a different deal. Okay, so wait a second. I want to know your
Yep.
shifting. Did you go
Yes.
with synchro shift then?
Yes, I had to because I went with
And
a
tell,
12 speed.
tell,
Okay,
tell,
so pardon me. So tell
tell,
us.
tell. Yeah, let's hear it.
Well, I made yesterday in the race. I probably shifted the wrong direction
Oh,
5 or 6 times at least.
oh, really?
Well, it's when you used to have 2 buttons,
Yep.
right? So if I needed a downshift or upshift and I was on the horns,
Mm-hmm.
you just automatically in your brain, oh, touch there, down, touch here, up, right? Like it was just this thumb.
Yep.
So this thumb automatically goes no matter if I want to go up, up or down, the right thumb goes. And there's only one button there, right? And that brings it to a higher gear.
Mm-hmm.
And so several times I was like, oh, and I feel, okay, do 2 on the other side.
Yeah.
When it does synchro shift, it's really, I had no idea until I was riding with somebody else that had synchro shift a couple of weeks ago. And the bike computer beeps before.
Mm-hmm.
So does the Wahoo do that?
No, I love that. That's a great feature. I like that a lot.
So when
I don't have that.
When you get to the point where the next shift will synchro shift, there's a beep.
Okay, I like that.
So that was really good to know, right?
Yeah.
So like, okay, yep, I'm like 9 up, and I know that the next one's going to drop it down. So then you just take the little bit of power off,
That's
just
right.
like you would normally
Unload
do
the
when you're
chain of
shifting.
that.
Yeah, just like you normally would do when you're shifting to front. And I think that it'll be like almost like a Pavlovian response. I'm learning it. And even when I rode today, because I rode 3 hours today on it, I started to really, I'm feeling that. The beep comes, I know that it's going to shift, and that's a good thing. So no, I actually really like it.
Yeah.
And the 12-speed Dura-Ace, oh my gosh, it shifts so fast.
That's great.
It's quite significantly faster than the 11-speed and how it shifts.
I did not think I'd like the single shift, and I like it, but I really like that feature that you have, and I don't have that, of the beeping, because that's one of the things that I really try to be aware of, especially as I crest a hill or I'm about to start a hill, is when that shift of the front derailleur happens, because it's a double shift. You shift the front derailleur and the rear derailleur, or the system does. And it can get hung up if you're trying to crank too hard on the chain. And so I really like that feature.
And you make a different decision, right?
Yeah.
You're cresting the hill. It's like, you know what? I'm not going to shift one more time down because I know I'm cresting. I'd rather stand up, maybe give just a couple more pedal strokes.
Yeah.
So I don't shift that front under pressure. I think that's exactly where it comes in with that little beeping. I wonder if you could set that up on the
I
Wahoo.
wonder if I can. I just updated everything, but it doesn't beep, that's for sure. But I wonder if it is on the computer.
Because mine was on the computer. I could set it up. I could set it up to it said that it asked me when I synced it to the Garmin, it asked me, do you want to beep or something? I can't remember.
Okay, I'm gonna look.
So
I'm gonna look.
maybe someone
That
could
might
put
be
it in
where
the
it
chat.
is.
They probably got a Wahoo. Someone's like, oh yeah, John.
Yeah.
It's just this button you
Yeah.
you've been dealing with this for 2 years.
Oh, well, that's great. Well, I'm happy for you. I mean, it's
Yeah.
been a ton of work, but what a sense of accomplishment at the same time. And it is so cool when you're racing and you're like, you build it. And I mean, that's a big accomplishment. So
It's
congrats.
kind of like you have a garden and you grew your vegetables, right? And you're like,
Yeah.
they taste a little bit better,
Yeah.
and it's a sense of pride. And like we talked about too, like I bought a bunch of tools along the way too, and that's good. And
Yeah.
just little things like I didn't have a carbon saw and a carbon saw guide.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have those. So because I want to cut my arrow bars to be exact.
Oh, right.
Sticking out too
Okay.
far. So I tried it first time with just a hacksaw and a regular blade, and oh man, I made a mess. And so then I went and bought like the guide, and then I bought a carbon blade for my hacksaw. Oh man, it's so nice.
Nice. Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, I want to cut this. I want
That's great.
but yeah, just like little things like that if I was a bike shop, I would have.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, and I don't want a bunch of people calling me, asking me to cut their arrow bars. But if you want to borrow my tools, I can definitely.
That's it, yeah. No, that's a big expense of building a bike, is getting the right tools, and you got to have the right tools. Don't mess with the wrong tools, because it takes twice as long, and sometimes you end up doing more damage than good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right, so we're going to be heading down the check-in here.
Yeah,
I will keep an eye out for any pros, and maybe grab one for the podcast. And I was telling you, we ran into Miranda Carfrey and Tim O'Donnell. We talked with Miranda a little bit before the swim start. And it's just so cool, and what a great story that Tim and her had. Not a great story, but an important story that they shared in terms of athlete health. And Tim O'Donnell, I don't know how many people know, he ran into heart problems, which really almost
he had a heart attack.
Yeah, it was almost catastrophic. And he was able to come back. And I don't know if he's racing. He was doing the swim practice. I didn't check the pro list, but what was so important is that they shared that story.
Yeah.
She shared it from her perspective, what it was like, and he obviously shared it from his perspective. And boy, there's just so many great stories like that to hear, not only about the race that happens, but just, the lives that some of these pro triathletes have, and the challenges that they go through. So I'll see if I can find some.
So you can bag one.
Podcast. That's right.
So we may have another surprise podcast this week.
Yeah.
You're telling me.
Sure. So,
I can always move stuff around and make things work. So we can, if you get a surprise guest, you're at the coffee shop, the Lava Java, is that what it's called?
Yeah, Lava Java.
If you're at Lava Java, and you can grab a podcast, just text me and we'll jump on.
Good deal. All right, well, good catching up.
Yep, you too. Good luck. Good luck to
thanks.
Laura, and good luck to you, keeping the anxiety, the
That's
zen. Okay, keep it mellow.
Yeah, that's right.
I hope the
It'll be
check-in
good.
is calm. It should be, right? Like Sunday night,
Yeah.
should be, or Sunday afternoon there. Sunday afternoon.
It's Sunday. What time is it here? It's 2:00. Yeah. So.
All right, awesome stuff.
Okay. Talk soon.
Okay,
Thanks,
bye, John.
everyone.